Hello and welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker podcast. My name is Ross LeCain. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you the insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker program. My name's Ross LeCain. Today we have Kim Horan, a top 100 broker and franchise principal of Aussie at St Mary's and Wetherill Park. Welcome, Kim.
Good morning, Ross. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thanks for getting up early to have a chat. Really excited to have you on the show and wanted to really get your experience because you've had a lot of experience from working in finance in car dealerships, I believe, to then being a mobile broker with Aussie, working in the corporate side of Aussie, and now to owning one franchise, which was St Mary's, and recently you've expanded to a second franchise with Wetherill Park. So just want to frame, how has that experience sort of served you in your business at the moment?
Look, I think pretty much everything that we do builds at the experience base that we need to keep going on and doing better things. But initially, the time in the motor industry really taught me about how to talk to people and helped me to really understand sales. And I think that, often we would say we're a service-based type of industry. But I think sales goes hand in hand with it, and it can be the difference between whether or not somebody that has a good skill set to provide the service can actually be successful. So I think the sales bit was huge.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I remember being at a conference in Las Vegas, and one of the presenters, asked that question: "What business are you in?" Right? And a lot of people obviously say, "Oh, I'm in finance, I'm a mortgage broker." But at the end of the day, no matter how you want to cut it, we're in the business of sales. And so, that is a great point. So that finance background in the car yard gave you that experience around that sales. And you're really good at sales.
Well, I like it. And I feel like being a good salesperson is actually almost the vehicle that allows you to provide good service. Because there's no point being really good at what you do if people don't want to deal with you.
Definitely.
And if you genuinely believe you're going to be the one that's going to meet their need with what you provide in your service, then they actually need to buy that.
And it's so important. The book that I've been reading recently, The Challenge of Sales, says 54% of customer loyalty is created at that time of sale, right?
Yeah.
So that's massive. It's a massive opportunity. A lot of people lose that, right? So definitely. So tell me what you learned from sales in the car industry.
I think sales is pretty much the same no matter where or when you do it. So it's always about building rapport. It's always about understanding the need of the person you're talking to, and then it's about providing them a solution. And within that, it's about, establishing trust so that they believe you're going to be part of the solution. And then obviously having the skill set and the craft that sits behind with what we do, being a good broker and a good service provider.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think all of that just came out of years and years of sitting there, just talking to customers over a desk and identifying what they needed and trying to give them a good outcome.
Definitely. So explain exactly what you did in the back in the days in the car.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Hey, I actually started, all right, I'll be honest, I started as an aftermarket chick because nobody really wanted to give, and I'm not jumping on the back of something here, but nobody really wanted to give a female a job as a car salesperson, which is actually what I was trying to get into. And so the pathway was aftermarket, so the rust chick and the okay. So I started in that, and Was just really fortunate that the dealership I worked in, the dealer principal liked me. And one day they were really busy on a weekend. It was a little Hyundai dealership when Hyundai was like flying out the door. And they just got that busy this weekend. They didn't have enough people on the ground. And I got out there and started talking to people and started selling cars for him. And he ended up coming to me and saying, hey, like, what are you doing in aftermarket? Why aren't you selling cars for us? And I said, well, at this point, I was a single mum and had 2 kids, and I'm like, well, I can't afford to be on trainee wages, firstly, and secondly, like, nobody wanted to give me a job doing that, and he gave me a job straight away. So started selling cars, and then it's like anything, right? You're always looking for what's next, and so ended up changing franchises and went to a different dealership. And then when I got there, I started to get a bit like, all right, well, what am I going to do next? And started to think about finance. And again, nobody really wanted to take me out of what I was doing because I was doing pretty well and give me a start in like doing the finance side of things. So I quit, did back in the day what was a 3-day business managers course for people that were already business managers. And then applied for a part, like a job that had, because you needed to get some actual experience. Nobody wanted to hire you. So I applied for an aftermarket role again that had 2 days a week substituting for the finance manager when they were off. And so that actually got me some experience. And yeah, from there just went for my next job, which was at a very, very finance orientated, high pressure dealership in Sydney that was pretty much everything revolved around the finance department, and it drove sales. And I really learnt about lending and handling pressure there.
Yeah, so, which is probably doing you well right now in this
doing me very well. Yeah.
So, you are great at selling because, it's quite often people need the home loan, but you're quite good at actually giving them, the insurance and protecting them as well. So, and I think, from our conversations that training ground back in the cars is really help you because you need to sell insurance, right? So talk to us a little bit about how you position and sell insurance.
I've probably taken a step back from saying that I actually sell insurance. So insurance is a funny thing for me. One of my motivators from coming from car industry to home loan industry was the difference between being very transactional and very how much can I make out of this customer focused. So we had a lot of discretion over the interest rate at the time that we could write a car loan at, and we also had massive margins on insurances and things like that. So our job was to make as much money out of every customer that we could, right? And it was very transactional. So one of the things I liked about transitioning over to home loans was that I actually got to do that on my terms, and I got to build relationships with people and feel like I wasn't flogging a product at them, but I was providing something that they needed. And so initially when we started to do mortgage protection, I was actually the number one resistor. I was like, I'm not doing that. I just got out of the car industry. You can't make me do this. No way. I'm not flogging insurance at people. And I had my sales leader at the time call me one day and just say, look, Kim, would you just do this for me? She basically said, will you please just try it for me? And I was I felt a bit obliged. So I did it. And I'll be honest, right, I did it really half-heartedly. There was no finesse to it. There was no effort put into it. I really just took the quotes out with me and mentioned it to the people basically because I had promised I would. But it was their response. So when I mentioned it to them, because it was a young couple buying their first home, they were like so grateful. They were like, they really appreciated that I'd brought it up. They really appreciated that I'd made it available and easy for them. And to be really honest, it was pretty affordable. Like our product is actually on market. So that immediately changed my perspective, which I think was really important. So for me, I don't feel like I ever really sell it, and it sits in line with the way I like to do things, which is really values-based. And I just make sure that I do talk to every customer about it. There's never any pressure. I honestly don't do a sales pitch with it. I put it in front of them. I talk to them about it. I present it with the lovely brochure that we have to do it with. And yeah, and just I always give them options. I think options are important for people if they are kind of thinking about it, just that they can go, okay, well, there's a few variables here. I've got choice.
Excellent. And so it's just about bringing it up in the conversation and then just presenting it as an option to them without sort of, but making it part of the conversation.
Every time. Yeah. It is something. And honestly, I think that's all it is. And what that does is it allows the people that it is important to say yes. And the people that it's not important to, I don't feel like it damages the relationship I've got with them because there's no pressure applied there.
Exactly. So what other things do you think's important in sales?
I'm a big believer in probably over delivering. So I think if you said under promise, over deliver. And I don't feel like I actually get it right all the time, but it's the constant thing that I'm trying to perfect. So I feel like customers need to, especially in the world we're in right now, and it's been like it for a little while, they actually need to feel like they're valued and they don't want to feel like a number. So as much as we've got a business now where there's a few people handling a customer that I deal with from start to finish, I've kind of gone full roundabout on it because I started where I did everything myself. And even though I had people working in the background, I was the only one that dealt with the customer. Then I've tried transitioning it over so that I hand over like straight after I've interviewed basically. But what I'm finding now is they want a bit more contact from me. So depending on what the calls are about and where it's at, I'm finding that strategically I need to build more contact points back in where I just touch base with them a bit. And there seems to be a better response in that. That there's more connection. And that's probably the thing that I'm noticing at the moment is that people realise there's not a lot of point trying to have loyalty with a banking institution anymore. But then how do we create loyalty between our customers and us?
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, especially, when we're moving into this age of digitization, right?
Yeah.
And I know for yourself, you used to run around, and I know we've spoken over the COVID in the masterminds that we were doing, where, you started doing a lot more appointments via Zoom than going to face-to-face and running around all around the countryside. And it's been said that, high tech, you really need high touch to make that connection. So I think, what you're saying is exactly that, right? So how do you build those high touch points into your process and make it seamless? They still feel that connection with you. So how, since it's opened up a little bit now after COVID, have you gone back to sort of seeing everyone face to face, or are you still doing more via Zoom?
I am still doing some Zoom stuff. And I think for me, where I'm sitting with it is what best suits this client. So I still, and I know you and I have had lots of conversations about this, but I still see part of my value proposition as a broker being able to meet the need of a client, which often does mean out of business hours, right? So But like I did a Zoom appointment with a young couple last night and both lots of parents. It was awesome. The connection was still there. We're moving forward. I've sent out file invites and stuff last night, so everything's moving forward. We had a bit of fun with it actually. We had the appointment and Mum's asking a question, so the computer gets turned around to Mum and then back around the other way, and so just I guess made fun of it. And then I'm like, all right, I need to have a look at a few things for you guys, but I really want to give you an outcome tonight. How about we take an intermission and send them off to have a cuppa, and then just send them another link and got them back online, right? So I feel like it can work either way. I have to admit, I didn't realise, but I did miss sitting in front of a customer.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of appointments recently that have been really long, because I've really started to take that time and enjoy having a bit of fun with the customer in front of you again. And I think when you've been doing something for a long time, you can get into a rhythm that just serves you, like getting through the process. But then when that gets taken away for a minute and you go, hang on, what is it that I actually really love about what I do? And I love sitting in front of a customer, like I really do. And so, yeah. But it's been good. It's a bit of a refreshing, right?
Oh, definitely. And I found that when I took a bit of a break, before I launched into this business, I missed that real connection. And, humans are driven by that connection. So, as you said before, sales, no matter what industry you're in, it's very similar, because it's all about, connecting people to people, right?
Yeah.
So in the age that we're moving to, in terms of obviously that high tech, high touch, it's around about how can we create that connection. And I know a lot of people are using video messaging, and obviously using videos become huge on social media, because, people want to see you. They want to be able to see you and your personality and have that connection with you. So I think that's absolutely massive. Well, that's great. So just in terms of, you touched on your process, but we've chatted lots around this, and you have some amazing processes and very detailed processes in your business. So I just wanted to chat around those, and how they've come about, and how you're finding the evolution of these and getting your staff on board with what you're doing.
Running a business is, I reckon, it's like, outside of parenting teenagers, it's the biggest growth thing for you as an individual that you'll ever have. Do you know what I mean? Like, because especially if you're in the business and you're part of what generates the income for the business. So it's a real skill set that has to be developed to find the balance between being the income generator, being the business owner that has to develop and implement strategy and process, the business trainer, coach and developer of staff, manager, and you're transitioning constantly between all these hats that you've got to wear. I'm still so not there, I feel, right? But I know I'm getting better, and that's good. And I can have a laugh with my staff about it sometimes. I'm like, hey, guys, I'm a work in progress, all right? Just bear with me. But look, I feel like process is the only thing that undergirds a successful business. When we have a business that has as many variables as our businesses do. So when you've got so many different processes and so many different lenders with different processes, and so many points where if you don't get it right back here, you're going to pay the price for it 2 or 3 weeks down the road here. And every time we get it wrong, then we impact our customer experience. Then I think they're all the reasons that if there's nothing else that you focus on for a while until you nail it, it's got to be process. And I find that it's constantly evolving. So you feel like you've just kind of nailed it, And then what happens, and you would notice this, Ross, right? How good is growth to show you where your holes are in your process, right?
Definitely.
So as soon as you start to get a bit of momentum and you get a bit of that growth and a bit of that increase, next minute all the cracks start showing up, right?
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, here's all the pain points, let's go again. And it's just this constant revolving thing where if you're growing and if there's increase happening in your business, you're always trying to find good stuff and you're always refining process. And I feel like it's just a perpetual thing that we do as business owners.
Yeah. So you build them, you're constantly building a process and you're breaking them, building them and you're breaking them. And that's how evolution comes, isn't it? Because you, as you say, you are so busy, you're forced to change and evolve your processes rather than the other way around. And so I think.
Can I say, I think the number one, if I was going to give somebody else any advice, I probably spent a couple of years on what I would call like the rat wheel of busyness, and had like this mental checklist in my mind of everything that I knew I needed to do that would improve the business. But I basically succumbed to the busyness. Whereas now I've kind of made a commitment with myself this year, because that's almost procrastination, right? Like if you know something's going to fix something and you don't make the time to do it, like it's a bit crazy. But we've all got, our great belt of excuses, which for me was always busyness. But I have been really committed this year to giving time up that I would normally choose to do other things in, to work through that list in my mind of all the things I know will improve my business for me and for my staff. And that's got like a huge level of satisfaction attached to it for me, because I'm seeing the change happen. And it's putting the structure and the support mechanisms into my business where it will make it easier for me to onboard people. I'll have the training resource available so that when you're onboarding them and you're not having to keep retraining stuff all the time, and they actually have the resource to rely on for, because with us, right, like you might train something and then they don't do that particular thing with that particular lender for 3 months. And it's like, well, where's the support for that, so that they have a reference place to make sure they do the job right. So I'm building all of that stuff into the business at the moment, which is it takes so much time, but I think it means that it makes space for scale, and that's probably what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Exactly, because I know in our business we were, writing about 700 loans a year, maybe more, and we lost a whole bunch of our support staff, but we were able to then plug them back in because we had a process, right? Yes, we would do training between 8 and 9, 4 mornings a week, but the fact that we had a detailed process, and what you're saying is that processes run your business, and then you plug the people in and train them to run the processes.
You got it. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then that's the other challenge, isn't it? Is yes, it's one thing to build a process, and we've been there, but it's around, talk to us about getting your staff on board with the changes.
Look, I feel like working with your staff, it's the same as working with a client, right? Like, I think they have to buy into the fact that you care about them and that you care about what their day's like when they turn up to work. And I talk about that a lot. So for me, when I started my business, I sat down and worked out why I wanted to start a business. And what was really interesting is it wasn't just about the customers. I actually wanted to create a workplace that was really fruitful, where people turned up and they did a really good job, but they got a high level of satisfaction out of it. And they had a place that they liked being at. And so I think when you build your process around having a good culture, and it's just supporting people coming to work and feeling like they do a good job, and you make sure you position it like that and you keep the customer in mind. So I'm really huge on why. I'll spend a lot of time on why with my staff and with customers, which is probably the bit I like teaching and I like education. So I think why always comes into that. And then we go through the what and the how.
Definitely. I'm a big one. Most of my presentations I always will start with the why. And I think that's so important in terms of for them to understand the reasons behind it and what's at the heart of it. And I think you touched on a really good point there. It's great to talk about process, but the client is at the end of the experience, right?
Yeah.
So your process has to feed in to create that outstanding service. And I know when we were doing 800-900 loans a year, in terms of the number of conversations we had, because sometimes with a pile of files on the desk, it can feel like they're just working in a bit of a sausage factory, right? But you need to bring that back and talk about, well, there's a client at the end of it, and they're all important, whether they're buying their first home or their 15th investment property. It's still a really, really important transaction to them. So that's why I think it's really important to celebrate those wins and to share those with your staff, because they might not get the interaction that we get, but you've got to make them feel part of that process and that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the key sort of technologies and stuff that you're using to sort of create these systems in your business?
Look, I'm a spreadsheet girl, so I'll be honest. You can give me all the technology in the world, and all I want to look at is at a spreadsheet. It gives me an overview of everything, because I'm just one of those people. If I can just look at everything going on every day, but I'm quite systematic about that. So I've got different spreadsheets for different things. So I have we use Google Docs. It's really great. It means that everybody can interact in the one document and it's live. So I have it set up to go out to my teams, and we've got it set up to serve the business process. And that is my overview document. So I have what I call my work in progress stuff. And so there's two kind of stages of that, which is where it's really only me looking at it, and I haven't got anybody else touching it or analysing any of the information on it yet. But then I have like a pre-lodgement tab there, and that's where I've started to hand it over to one of my team that are going to start packaging and intaking documents and things like that. So for me, just having a glance at that means that I don't really need to use much else. That kind of keeps me in the point where I can give direction and I keep myself on track with it.
So explain your team. So you do the initial, so a lead will come in. Who will handle the lead?
I've got a reception admin girl that does that.
Yeah.
So handle the lead, like I'm still like, I want to talk to that customer the minute they make an inquiry. So if I'm free, I talk to every person, unless they kind of are busy and they're just like, listen, I don't need to talk to anybody now, I just want to book an appointment. But otherwise I want to have that few minutes where I have a chance to connect with them, right? So I'll do that, book an appointment, and then I hand it back to admin, and they put it through our onboarding process, which has got about 6 or 7 steps in it, and then create the folder for me for the appointment, and it gets popped somewhere, and then I wait for the pre-appointment data to come back in and do the appointment. Once I've had an appointment and we have like an admin does all the like confirming appointment stuff and everything. So when I've had the appointment, once I have got it to the point where we're moving forward, then I hand it over to my loan processing team. So I've got 2 people that support me there. And normally what will happen is I have kind of made a recommendation to the customer. They've agreed to move forward, and they do the process then of collecting the supporting documents for me and creating app docs, getting it out, and then
do they liaise with the customer at all?
Yeah, we are doing that. And so once one of my team takes over the file, I'm at the moment, I'm sending the file invite out. It's such a kind of quick process, and I feel like it's freshest in my mind. So I have it set up to do it within like 30 seconds. So I do that. I do it really quickly, and I find it keeps my files moving quite quickly. Then when one of my girls is intaking and reviewing all the stuff, at that point they'll come back and say, hey, we've picked this up, or did you know that? And so there's that communication between me and my team. And then depending on the customer, so we have a process that is still quite fluid in that we deal with people. And some people have different needs to other people. And what I've been trying to teach my staff about, and doing it really nicely, but, there's just some people that are going to have different reactions to different things, and you kind of, over time, that. So if I feel like it's a customer that's going to need a touch from me because we're asking for something that they're going to object to a little bit, or then I'll make those phone calls. If they're just a nice, standard, no fuss customer that's just going to do what you ask and they're not going to be high need, then the team will do that.
Definitely. And it's, and that would be more the rule, and you handle the sort of the exception. And I think that's important for people to understand when they are creating processes, that your processes, are going to cover your 80% of your clients, right? There's 20% that always are going to fall out of the process, but your process designed to cater for 80% of the deals. So there's always going to be, those exceptions that you need to communicate with your team and talk about.
They could be slightly higher than 20% at the moment, to be honest. But yeah.
Well, you are in St Mary's out in Sydney's west.
Hey,
right?
Enough of that.
No, just joking. Just
Best
joking.
customers in Sydney I've got.
Exactly. Heart, soul of the earth customers out there for sure. For sure. This has been really great. I think, we've talked about sales, we've talked about leadership, we've talked about process. Just in closing, in terms of obviously someone looking to get in and look to really, accelerate the growth of their business, similar to what you have done over the last sort of 12 months. Well, what are just some of your parting tips that we can sort of give?
So one of the things I think we've been talking about as a team lately is what is actually service excellence, because every customer that walks in, really, they walk in and deal with you because, they expect that you're going to get their loan approved. So pretty much everything that we do that's just about getting their loan approved, you're really only meeting the minimum expectation, to be honest. So you might do it and you might do it on time and your communication might be good and all of those things, but really isn't that just the minimum benchmark? So we're kind of trying to think about things at the moment that really add that personal little wow thing into our process. So that's one of the things I'd say to think about. So get your process right, but then don't stop there. What actually makes it excellent? Because just delivering on what they walked in there to get, which is a home loan approval and some good service, that's the minimum. So I think that would be one thing. The other thing is really work on your sales. I did a lot of one-on-ones when I was a sales manager, which is where we used to go out and actually I sit and observe appointments. And honestly, that taught me so much. Like, I completely changed my process after that to the way I used to do things when I was a mobile broker. Became a sales manager, did all those joint field visits, came back out into Brokerland and completely changed the way I did my sales process. So, yeah, work on sales. If it's not a strong part of who you are within your business, get a sales coach. Get someone that's prepared to sit and observe you, that knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about, and can teach you how to talk to clients in effective ways that build trust and confidence into them so that they want to deal with you.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that final point. And I've always, any literature that I can get my hands on for sales, I love. And I think, now more than ever with it going digital, right? It takes away that personality power, and it takes into the video presentation is becoming important, right? So tools like how you connect your iPad to your computer, and so there's a whole nother level that where the people that adapt to this change the quickest are then going to be that step up in sales. So yeah, constantly evolving. I love that. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for your time. Thanks for getting up this morning and having a chat. Really enjoyed, and I think there's a lot of value for everyone that's listened to you. So thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Ross. It's been awesome.
All right, this has been another episode of the $1 Billion Broker podcast. Subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or your chosen podcast platform. Join us on the $1 Billion Broker group on Facebook. If you'd like to contact me about my coaching services, drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, we'll talk to you soon.